The Stories of Home project is stunning.
Very powerful.
It's very ambitious.
It just blows me away.
Impressed, very impressed, and moved.
It's so powerful to see the students engage, thinking about the stories.
And it tells a wonderful story and it's beautiful art.
Stories of Home began in the English classroom when we previewed videos and looked at historical footage and interviews of Hmong veterans. And once students had built some background knowledge, we read some stories and poems and memoirs by Hmong writers and other Southeast Asian writers.
I came across a book by a Hmong writer by the name of Kaukalia Yang, The Late Homecomer. And I was really astounded by the very poetic nature of the book. And it lent itself very nicely to visual imagery and I think art from various portions of her text. You know, we worked with the ELA department, Ms. Reimer and Mr. Garcia, and they taught their kids how to interview and go out and collect a lot of the stories that are already out there.
Students chose people they would like to interview for this project from the Southeast Asian regions, and they came up with interview questions. They wrote a narrative based on the interview, and then those pieces of writing were passed on to art students.
And that informed the art. So they did some creative writing as well as the interviews, and other than that book, those stories were the inspiration for this project.
In the spring, we used some of these ideas that we had come up with, and they turned these pieces into poetry, short stories of their own, which were then also passed on to art students so that they could continue with their art. One of the things that was magical about this experience was that as the project evolved, the Southeast Asian students, who tend to be very quiet in class, tend to open up and talk more and share their stories. Their voice seemed to be valued.
Having a better understanding of the journey and actually identifying, like some of the Mexican-American students, identifying with the plight of the Southeast Asian students.
And even outside of the Southeast Asian experience, when we were talking about other things in class, they seemed to be more vocal. And so I think they really found their voice not only in telling their own stories, but also in being part of the classroom community.
I am just amazed at the final product when I see what these students have done. I mean, their heart is here in their painting.